Okay, so we are on journal 4 here, last journal for this section, and I'm going to be doing some problem for our bell work from problem chapter 1. So I picked 104. All you got to do is sketch a graph, give a positive and coterminal angle, and then find what quadrant it is. And so this here is a negative 180. So if you guys remember, when we are drawing a graph, or if we're placing an angle that's a negative angle on a coordinate system, a negative means that you're going to go clockwise, whereas positive, you're going to go counterclockwise, so this way. So we have to move clockwise in the negative direction from the angle 0 and then to negative 180. So we're going to have to go this way. So I'm going to put some labels down to help make this a little bit more clear. So remember, 0 degrees starts here on that x-axis, and now we're going to have to swing our, let me actually put some more arrows on here. So when we swing to down here, okay, that only gets us to negative 90 degrees. And then if we swing on up, and we're going clockwise here, that is going to be negative 180 degrees because this is 90, another 90 makes 180. And so it looks like our terminal angle lands here. So remember, we always start our initial angle here. That's why I had to start at 0. And then our negative, our terminal angle is on this side, because I had to land on negative 180 degrees. Now, looking at this, that sure does look like a straight angle, right? And it should be, because it's 180. And so we've sketched our graph, and so let's take a look at our terminal angle. Our terminal angle here is on an axis, right? It's not in a quadrant. It'd like be easy if this was just like the terminal angle here, where it's in quadrant 4, or if it's in here in quadrant 2. Sorry, this is quadrant 3. Or in here in quadrant 2. But it's not. It's on an x-axis. So in this case, this here has no quadrants. So we're going to write no quadrant that it is on, because it's kind of indecisive. It's on an axis, so it's not quite third quadrant, it's not quite second quadrant. All right, now for the positive and negative coterminal angles, remember, if you want a positive coterminal angle, you generally have to add 360 to it until it becomes a positive number. So a number like negative 180, if I add 360 to it, I'm going to get 180. And so now it's already positive, and so I want to stop there. And then if I want a negative coterminal angle, so negative coterminal angle, I need to subtract 360 until it's a negative number. Now, if I subtract 360, it's just going to become a more negative number. It's going to be negative 540 degrees. And so looks like I have a positive coterminal and a negative coterminal, and that's just by adding or subtracting by 360. So remember that when you add and subtract by 360, what it allows the terminal angle to do is land in the same place, because you're basically going around in a circle. Okay, so I have the coterminals, I have what quadrant, or not a quadrant, and then I have the sketch, so I'm done. All right, let's move on to today's actual lesson. Okay, so let's talk about calculating with degrees, minutes, and seconds, because this actually goes into how we calculate, how do we make degrees in decimal form into longitudes and latitudes, the style that we write them in and that they're known for being written as. So this will actually go into a lot of use in GPS and GIS systems. So before we get into that, let's talk about how we convert. 1 minute, or it's also written as 1 and then this little apostrophe or dash here, represents 1/60th of a degree. So that means that for 1 minute, it's only 1/60th of a degree. So in this case, here's my conversion for 1 minute. Let me grab my pen here. So this is for 1 minute. Whereas this one with the 2 dashes is for 1 second. Okay, so 1 second is only 1/3060th of a degree, which makes sense because if this 1 minute is 1/60th of a degree, then there are 60 seconds in a minute. So we have to divide this number by another 60, which makes the 3,600th of a degree. Sorry, that's really hard to say with all these numbers. Okay, so let's do some example problems where we're doing these types of conversions. All right, so what we're going to be doing here is that I gave you something in the angle form in DMS. DMS stands for degree, minute, and second. Oh, sorry, I spelled second wrong. My bad. So DMS, anytime you hear me say it, it just stands for degree, minute, seconds. You'll notice that these are written in DMS. So notice, like, I'll take this one for instance. So this first one is in a degree sign, right? So this is definitely the degree. We learned that one little dash or apostrophe means minute, and 2 apostrophes means a second. So that's there, you can tell, like, these are written in this unit, and we have to make them into just degrees. With these, so these degrees, when we convert them, will have decimal values, and so you're going to see that how I'm going to do it here. So these problems come from chapter 14.1, and these are the problems assigned if you want to practice your conversions. So let's go ahead and try to convert this and see how that is done. So what you do is you first take your degree and you bring it down. And actually, let me get another colored pen. Let's do green. Yeah. Okay, so you bring your degree down because it's already in degree unit, right? You don't have to mess with the 82 because it's already converted to a degree. What you have to convert is this 30 here because it's in minutes. We have to convert the minutes to a degree. Well, how do you do that? If you remember back in that last slide there, 1 degree, ooh, sorry, that's a highlighter. 1 minute is equal to 1/60th of a degree. Instead of doing that as a fraction, 1/60, we can also remember that fractions just mean division, right? So apparently, if you want to convert 1 minute to a degree, you got to divide by 60. So that's all we're going to do here. We're going to take that 30, and remember that this here is attached to this degree sign, so we have to add on after we convert this minute. So that's going to be 30 divided by 60, and we're going to work it out, and that will become our degree value. So 30 divided by 60, I don't think you even need to use a calculator here. It's 0.5, but now it's a degree because you've converted it. And so now you can add these two values, so that's really just 82.5 degrees, and voila. You have converted your DMS, your degree, minute, seconds, to a just degree. And this does have a decimal value just because this here is going to just be whatever's, when you convert it, it's just going to be whatever's left over in the degree. So for 49, we're going to do the same thing. It's just a negative sign. So what I do when it's a negative angle is I ignore it first, okay? And I just convert it as it is. Then once I'm done converting, I'll add back in the negative. So that way I don't have to deal with the negative sign when I'm converting. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to bring down the 60 degree. And then I have to convert the 12 minutes by dividing by 60. And so if I do 12 divided by 60, that's going to be 0.2. And then if I add that on, that's 60.2 degrees, but hold up, there was a negative sign, so I'm going to bring that back in. And so that's a negative 60.2 degrees. All right, now let's try 52. 52 here has seconds now, so we have to account for the seconds. Now this seconds here is a 0, 0, because in this case there are no seconds. But let's just see how you would work it out. All right, so we have 32 degrees plus 42 minutes, which we will divide by 60. Now, if you remember back in that slide before, 1 second is 1 over 3,600, right? So this case, we have to divide by 3,600 when we're dealing with seconds. So we're going to take the 0, 0, well, you don't have to write 2 zeros, but just like 1 0, and divide that by 3,600, typically when you're dealing with the seconds. But, you know, we know that when we divide by 0, that's going to give me 0. So this here is 32 plus 42 divided by 60 is 0.7. And then this one would just be 0. And so if you add them up, 32.7 degrees is my answer. And then this one here, I have 34. So I'm going to bring that down. Plus 51 divided by 60, because that's in minutes. And 35 divided by 3,600. And now if I work this out, we have 34. If I divide the 51 over 60, that's 0.85. If I divide 35 by 3,600, that is, I'm going to try to put as many decimal places as I can and then round to 2 later. But I believe it's going to be 0.00972 if I kind of plug this in my calculator. I'll just put like 5 decimal places here. And so if I add these together, I am going to get 34.86 degree as my decimal degree. Okay, so we've converted to DMS to just degrees. Now what we're going to do is go backwards from degrees to DMS. So I want you guys to start thinking, when for minutes, if we want to convert a minute to a degree, we have to divide, right? If we're converting from a degree to a minute, we might have to multiply instead. We have to do the opposite. So you're going to see how we're going to do that in the next slide. All right, so now we're converting from decimal degree to DMS. So here is the degree, and you can see some of them have decimals, or actually all of them have decimals, but we need to convert them back to those minutes and seconds if they have them. So how you do this is first, you can take the part that's not a decimal, or that's before the decimal here. The 46 is our whole number, right? So we're going to drag that down because that there is our degree value. We have to convert, let me see if I have a highlighter here. Yeah, there we go. We have to actually convert this guy here, the numbers after the decimal. So what we do is we still have to add that on after we convert it, right? So we still have to use a plus sign. But the 0.75, we drag it down as just its decimal form. So we take what is left over. We drag down the whole number, and then whatever is left over, we keep that in the decimal form. And we are going to multiply that by, well, if that's in degree and we want to change it to minutes, instead of dividing by 60, we have to multiply by 60. And so in this case, if we multiply these two, we are going to get, let's see here, I'm using my calculator, 45 minutes. And then this one here is just 46 degree. And that's it. So now that I've converted it, I have my degree, I have my minutes. And so this is 46 degree, 45 minutes. And apparently this one didn't give us more decimals, so we don't have to care about the seconds. Actually, to make this nicer, let me change that answer. Since there was no seconds, there was no decimals that were leftovers, we can put it as 00, double apostrophe, and that can tell us that there was no seconds that we have to deal with. Okay, and now let's do 59. So again, we need to bring down our degree, our whole number. So 126 degree plus, now we have to take whatever the decimal is left over, multiply that by 60, and that is going to be, let's see, 46.6. And that there is going to be the whole number here. So this part is going to be our minutes, right? So just like before where that was our degree, we put that aside, we have to put our minutes aside and later on reuse that decimal that's left over. So here's what I mean. So I have 126 degree plus 46 minutes. But this leftover here, this leftover is now going to be added on. Let me do that in green. Added on as 0.6, so whatever the decimal is left over, and multiplied by, now most of you are going to think that I have to multiply by 3,600 because that is going to help us find the seconds. But here's the thing, we multiplied by 60 the first time to this entire decimal form. So this has already had 60 multiplied. So we do not multiply by 3,060. Instead, we just multiply by another 60. Okay? So you have to multiply by 60 to get the minutes the first time. And then afterwards, if you have a decimal left over like this, you have to multiply by another 60. And so if I multiply these two, let me drag down the other numbers first. This is going to be 36 seconds. And I think it's a perfect 36. Yeah. So that means our degree, our DMS is going to be, I'll just write it here. 46 minutes and 36 seconds. So that's our answer right there. Okay, let's try this again with some other problems here. So this here, if I have 174.255, I gotta drag down that whole number first. I'm gonna drag down 145 degree. Plus, now I have to take my decimal that's left over and multiply by 60. And if I do that, let's see what I get. I get 15.3, right? And so what I'm going to do there is use that 15 for my minute. And then I have to take the 0.3 and multiply that by another 60. And so if I do that, I have 15. And then if you multiply this out, you're going to get 18. And so that's going to be 18 seconds. If you don't believe me, use a calculator and you'll see you'll get like 18. All right. And then this here, if I were to work our last problem out, has a little bit more decimals here. We have 102 plus 0.3771 times 60. 20, okay, so if you multiply this guy out, you get 22.626. Yep. And so we have 22 minutes. And then we're going to use that decimal, 626, and multiply by 60 to get our seconds. So and then I get 102, drag it down, 22 minutes. And then if I multiply these two and round, I get 38. So you always try to round to the whole number seconds. So 38 seconds is what I get. So here is my number. All right, last slide for today. We are now going to try to take all that we've learned from this conversion and mix it with the idea of triangles. Okay, so in this problem here, the measures of two of the angles of triangles are given. So like number 16 here, I give you two of the angles, and this is a triangle. You have to find the third angle. So remember, a triangle sums up to be 180 degrees, right? So in this case, if you have two of the angles, you can always just add them together and then subtract it by 180. Or what I like to do, because I like to just throw things in the calculator one time, I just take my 180, subtract it by 29, the first degree, and 104, the second degree, and see whatever is left over. And when you do that, you get 47 degree. And so that would have been the third angle. Now for the second one here, you can see that it is in DMS format, right? So you have to convert, you have to first change it to a degree decimal, and then, so you have degrees, and then subtract it from 180. So what this problem is going to look like here is the first step. I'll actually write out the steps. How about that? Since this is the first time we are doing it. So the first step is to convert to degree decimal. Oh, I can't spell. Okay, so what we have to do there is convert both of these two into decimal degree. But we've done that quite a few times now, so let's go ahead and do that. So remember, if we're converting from DMS, that's when we have to divide by 60. And so in this case, if I divide this 12 by 60 instead, that's going to give me 0.2. And I'm going to be adding that with 147, so that gives me a 147.2 degree. Okay, and so that's my first one. I gotta get the other one. So 30 degree 19 divided by 60. Put a plus sign. I guess I forgot to put a plus sign between that last time. So if I divide, I get 0.32. And so that's going to add with the 30, so 30.32 degree. And so here's my second one here. Let me oh, there we go. So I've done step one, I've changed them to degree. So now this problem looks like this problem here. Like you're given 2 degree, I'm given 2 degree here, and I need to subtract that from 180. So the next step is to find the third angle of the triangle is what we're trying to do. And so if we were to do that, that would just be taking 180 minus 147.2 minus 30.32, which is going to be 2.48 degree, right? And so from here, I now have my degree for the third degree. But here's the thing, it's in degree form and we needed it in the DMS format. So we have to convert this back to DMS. So step 3, convert to DMS. And so if you have a degree like 248, so what you have to do is take that whole number, or take that whole number of, bring it down, so that's your degree. But then we take the leftover decimal and multiply that by 60. And so in this case, if you multiply that by 60, you get 28.8, I think. 28.8. Yep. And so now what we're going to do is we are going to, I'm just trying to make more room here. we need to just take the whole number, bring that down, so the 28. So we have 2 plus 28. So this is our degree, this is our minute, and now we're going to take over the leftover 0.8 and use that to find our seconds. So that's going to be 0.8 times another 60. Okay, so 0.8 times 60 gives me 48 seconds if I round. Or actually, I don't think I have to round. Yeah, that would make a perfect 48 seconds. And so your answer here, sorry, that was my laundry going off. It has a little tune when it goes off. So it looks like my answer here is 2 degrees, 28 minutes, 48 seconds as my final answer. All right, so that's the last problem there. This journal section has some optional homework that's recommended, and they are chapter 14.1 problems 45 to 68 and chapter 14.2 problem 15 to 22. Remember, you don't have to do every problem, but I would recommend doing a few problems in each section. So maybe doing like 10 to 15 problems in this section, and maybe this section, since there's fewer problems, maybe doing like 3 or 5. So that's my recommendation to you guys.